Hello, everyone out there on YouTube and Twitter. My name is David,
And I'm Colin.
and we're going to talk about everything Mandalorian Season 2, Chapter 16 stuff. And we are the Star Wars Stuff Podcast. And oh my God, Colin. Oh my God. They did it.
Yeah. Luke Skywalker is back. We just got done recording a very long podcast for Monday, and it was incredible to see that iconic character to come back. And when you do these characters, you have to do them right. Because if we go to The Last Jedi and we see how Luke was in there, it disappointed a lot of people, but the way that they did Luke Skywalker in this was amazing.
Yeah. I mean, the actor that they cast, I think his movements were pretty much perfect. It's what I kind of expected if we were going to get a Luke Skywalker appearance. And I was just in awe, taken aback. It was surreal. Couldn't believe it. You kept on shouting my name during the live reaction.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, is Colin ahead of me in time and seeing something I'm not seeing? Because I still had my doubts up until I think we saw the belt buckle. And then I was like,
Ooh.
that's Luke Skywalker. That is
Yeah.
him in the flesh. But of course, not in the flesh because it's a body double, essentially.
Right. And then they just had the CGI with Mark Hamill's face. But I still think that they should have done deep fakes. And I think soon we'll probably see like a deep fake on YouTube or something that someone did, and it's going to be really good. So
yeah, I think the big question is, why aren't they using the deepfake technology? Is it just a matter of like licensing the software, or is it something ILM doesn't kind of believe in and they just want to use their like brand of software that they've been using that's actually licensed to them? Because to me, deepfakes actually looks better than what ILM is creating from scratch. And that's kind of the big debate. And I'm anxious to find out if someone's like a deepfake expert out there and knows a lot about the subject. Email us, send us a message, something, because I'm really curious, and I think everyone else is at this point.
Yeah, because I've seen some really, really good deep fakes, and the following they have on YouTube like isn't that big, and it's just like, okay, so if they can do it, then Lucasfilm can do it. But why is Lucasfilm not doing it? And that also opens up the opportunities of bringing characters from the past into these live action shows that we've always wanted to see. And it would be a lot easier than doing the CGI, and it would probably be a lot cheaper than using CGI. So,
and we've said everything's on the table now, but now that I'm thinking about it, is everything on the table? Because I know in The Rise of Skywalker, they didn't want to do that with Leia. So
yeah,
do you think a young Leia is maybe on the table? If maybe like Billy Lord and Carrie Fisher's brother give the okay? I think Carrie Fisher's brother is like totally on board with having Carrie Fisher back in Star Wars in some capacity. I mean, Carrie Fisher loved Star Wars. She loved doing conventions. She fully embraced being Princess Leia. So I'm just kind of wondering about that. And we talked about on the podcast earlier that's going to be released on Monday. Are we going to get the big three back in some form in the future? That would be a trip to see. And I think the more that time goes on, I think we are going to get something like that. But it's just a matter of time, in my opinion.
I think I was going to say it's kind of weird, but doing Harrison Ford would be a big deal because of Harrison Ford is probably the only A-list actor that came out of Star Wars. No offense to Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher, but that would be a big deal. And if Harrison Ford approved it, then he would be getting paid a lot of money for his appearance, like and in that form that like they did for Mark Hamill. So it really just depends on what Harrison Ford says. They could always have the actor who played him in Solo come back too.
I think Alden Ehrenreich is going to return for the Lando series, and I think not only we're going to get Han Solo in the Lando series, I think we're getting Maul too.
Yeah,
Darth Maul is coming back.
Yeah. And Maul could potentially come up in Kenobi as well, possibly. Possibly.
Well, at that point in the timeline, that's 10 years after. So yeah, Maul has already
No.
No.
That could Kenobi takes place 10 years. Star Wars Rebels takes place 5 years before the events of A New Hope. So Maul is still technically alive. Do you think they're changing the Mandalorian show to Boba and Fennec? I don't think that they're changing the show. I think the Mandalorian is still going to be the Mandalorian. I think that the book of Boba Fett is going to be its own thing. I don't think they'll end up making that into the new Mandalorian. I think that's just going to be its own thing.
Yeah, the podcast that you're going to hear on Monday, Deadline is reporting that the Mandalorian season 3 is still taking place, and the book of Boba Fett will be its own standalone limited series. Apparently,
it just bothers me that they haven't officially announced it yet. I think that's kind of like, just tell us when season 3 is happening. Don't play games with us. Don't toy with our hearts, because Kathleen Kennedy said in the investors call that the next chapter will be coming during Christmas of next year. So
yeah, big shout out to Rural Farm Boy there. I mean, he's always liking our stuff on Twitter, and yeah, he's been around for a long time, and he's been a big proponent of the podcast, and thank you so much, RFB. Yeah, it's an incredible time, man. These future projects after what we got in The Mandalorian Chapter 16, it feels like we're going to get so much more, and it's going to give more creative license to all the creators and contributors to all these new series and films. And I think it's going to be inspirational to everyone that's involved. And how did they keep Luke Skywalker under wraps? How did that not leak?
Yeah, because he is it's called the Skywalker saga. He is a Skywalker. So you think that people on set would be like, oh, wait, and they would kind of put 2 and 2 together. But I am with you, David. I am very surprised that this didn't leak. I'm surprised that that it was kept under wraps, because this is a huge thing, and this does mean a lot to a bunch of people. So I cannot believe that we didn't get a leak of any kind, because there has been a bunch of leaks happening on The Mandalorian, but this was a surprise to a lot of people.
Yeah, it's also surprising we didn't get any concept artwork at the end of the season finale. Did we get some at the end of the finale for season 1?
I think we did.
We did. Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah.
So this was the first, and then we got our first end credit scene, the Book of Boba Fett.
And that threw a lot of people off too, of them doing an after credit scene, because that's normally not, that actually is not Star Wars' thing. This is the first time they've ever done an after credit scene. That usually belongs to Marvel. So it was very surprising to a lot of people when they did that. But the after credit scene did not disappoint, because we saw Bib Fortuna sitting on the throne. Now, I don't think that's the exact same throne that Jabba had, because Jabba was his giant slug. So I think that throne was custom made for Bib Fortuna. And and it's kind of interesting too, because of The Mandalorian takes place, well, this season is 6 years after the events of the Return of the Jedi. So the entire time they've heard the rumors of Boba Fett being alive, they've done nothing about it. And I thought that was interesting too.
So an interesting question is, why wasn't Bib Fortuna on the sail barge?
Yeah.
Or was he just bailed?
Yes. See that does open up the possibilities of other characters coming back. And I love Max Rebo, and I know I say it a lot, but seriously, he's a very interesting character. And I think that I think you're right, David. I think Fortuna did jump off the sail barge, because in Legends, Max Rebo and the band, some of the band, and Fortuna did jump off the sail barge. So I'm thinking that most of the characters that that from Legends that did jump off are still alive. I mean, they ended up doing like a whole thing on Robot Chicken on like on the Star Wars special of him surviving. So if they did that and George Lucas was there for some of it to kind of help like guide them do stuff, then I guarantee that Max Rebo is alive and he'll probably show up in Boba Fett, and all of you guys are going to be like, okay, fine, Colin, your like fandom has finally paid off for this character.
But you do know who else is going to show up in the Book of Boba Fett? It's going to be Dengar, Bosk,
yeah. Oh, the bounty hunters.
Yeah.
I don't think we even talked about it on the podcast. Oh man, no. Yeah, I was gonna say so apparently it's canon that that Bosk and Boba Fett have some bad blood because of Bosk. He believed that he had the right to the bounty of Han Solo more than Fett did. And apparently. I think I heard this somewhere. But
is that anywhere like in Clone Wars, Rebels?
Well,
because if not, it's going to be like Legends EU stuff. So
yeah, well,
not gonna really count.
Yeah, I think Bosk. So after Jango died and the whole thing went down with Aura Zing, I think that Bosk really kind of took the initiative to kind of raise Fett, and he was kind of like his guardian growing up. And I think maybe he thinks that because he raised him, that he deserve the claim of that bounty on Solo. But again, we have no idea. It's going to be awesome to see all those characters come back. I think they should do Simon Pegg as Dengar. I think that would be great.
Yeah, I know. I heard him. He was like lobbying to play that role. He was already on Star Plut in The Force Awakens.
Yep.
And so, he's a massive Star Wars fan.
Yeah. I think he would do great as Dengar. They would just have to add some scars on him, and he might have to work out a tiny bit more, but I think he could totally do it. And I don't think we've seen him in any movies in a while either.
Well, all the Mission Impossibles, I believe.
Oh, true. Okay, never mind.
He's constantly in those.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that there is a big opportunity to take the video game that never came to see the light of day, 1313, to use some of those stories in the Book of Boba Fett. But it feels like Jon Favreau has been thinking about this series for years now, maybe even decades, and I think he has a plan and he's going to execute it probably just as well as a Mandalorian, and we're going to get something really special out of that.
Yeah.
And you know what? We got Luke in the Mandalorian. What's to say we don't get Han Solo in the Boba Fett series?
That would be great. That would be. I mean, because if we haven't heard like who is in charge of that show, so if Jon Favreau is in charge of it, then I'm
pretty sure it's Favreau Filoni.
Okay, so if that ends up being true, then that is a big chance of that happening. I think that would be great. I think seeing Chewie and Han would be great, but again, if they're doing the CGI stuff, then they can do so much. Because of seeing Luke when he talked, it just looked it did look off, and that was the same thing to when they did Leia in Rogue One. But when they did Tarkin, it worked so well. So I don't know what they did differently.
Yeah, with Tarkin, I think they went to the maximum. And there was still a little bit of that uncanny valley where the human eye just kind of detects that it's not a real person.
Right.
But they got super close. But someone did do a deepfake video and put the footage side by side.
Yeah, I saw that. It looked
exactly like Peter Cushing. And it's like, I mean, it's ILM. Why don't they utilize that same technology? It feels like it's like 12-year-olds in their bedrooms creating this. And it's like, why can't ILM, the biggest effects company in the world, pretty much, and the most famous, why can't they achieve something similar? But I don't know. Yeah. Like I said earlier, I mean, it's we gotta actually kind of just find out if someone can send us an email or send us a message. I mean, it's just one of those things that I'm super curious about, and it probably might show up like on The Verge or Daily Wire or something. How they actually what the kind of just facts about the reasoning behind it.
We'll also probably learn about it on the new season of The Gallery that's coming out on Christmas Day as well.
I don't think they'll address that per se,
No?
because that would be kind of something negative towards Lucasfilm and ILM. But
Okay.
maybe, I mean, maybe they might say it in kind of passing. But yeah, I'm just eager to find out details. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
one of the big predictions that didn't happen was that we were going to lose some members of the crew. That didn't happen at all.
I thought for a second that we lost a Bo-Katan because she got shot and she went down. And I just remember like, oh, and then Moff Gideon aimed towards Grogu, and then Din Djarin like jumped in front of him and saved his life. But I thought that we lost her for sure because if she went down, and when that usually happens, someone ends up not making it. But she made it, surprisingly.
Yeah, RFB brings up a good point from a certain point of view. Stories,
yeah,
stories are all awesome. Recently, there's been a lot of contention to whether they're canon or not.
Yeah,
and it seems like some of them are canon and some of them aren't. It just depends on unreliable character. That's the reasoning I think we've gotten from Pablo. I think because some of these stories are accurate, but some of these stories are told from characters that are just either embellishing or maybe even just lying to us. So
right,
there's that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because spoilers for anyone that hasn't read the book, but I think at one point I think James said that Spock and Kirk show up, or they're mentioned or something like that from
there was
Star Trek.
Yeah, there was some reference to them. But yeah, some of those stories are really good. And if you haven't listened to them on Audible, they do a really good job. There's a lot of production that goes into them because you hear music, you hear sound effects. And Sam Witwer did one of the news stories for The Empire Strikes Back from a certain point of view. And I don't want to spoil that at all, but it's very, very intriguing and very interesting to hear a certain point of view from a very famous character. Character.
Yeah,
it's tough to talk about without spoiling, but yeah, it is super interesting. And he does great voice work. I mean, I think Sam Witwer's always going to have a job in Star Wars in some capacity. I mean, his knowledge for Star Wars, I mean, him simply being on the Solo set and telling them what their actual lightsaber options for Maul were, because no one really knew, and it seemed like no one from the story group was on set, but Sam Witwer was there, and he actually kind of advised them. And
we're
kind of lucky for that.
I do remember that. I think something else that we should think about is these characters that we see in the Mandalorian stuff. I was thinking about this the other day. Is where were they during the events of the original trilogy, and what were they doing?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Trying to figure out and think, when was Ben Solo born? He was born right after
Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course he was after, but I mean, how long after? 9 months after?
Well, I was gonna say, how old is he in Force Awakens? You know what? I'm gonna look it up right now.
I think he's in his 30s, I believe. He's in his 30s, Rey's like 19. So it's almost like Ben Solo was Harrison Ford's age when the first film came out. I think that's kind of how it's set up. So, yeah, it's
he was 29 in Force Awakens.
So
and Rey was 19.
Yeah.
So in these events, he is during season 2, he's 5. He is 5 years old because he was born 1 year after Return of the Jedi.
So it's on the table now that we might get a series where Luke is training Jedi in his new Jedi Academy, and Grogu might be a part of it. We might see young Ben Solo. But the question is, how are they going to address Mark Hamill, though? I mean, are they going to try and do the CGI face stuff, which I'm pretty sure is super expensive? So I don't think that they're going to go that route. I think they're actually going to cast the part, sort of like Alden Ehrenreich for Solo.
Yeah.
But I think that's on its way now. I think with the universal acceptance and reception of Luke Skywalker being in the Mandalorian, that's going to give Lucasfilm the extra little push they needed. But I mean, it's Luke Skywalker. Of course, everyone's going to watch and be intrigued.
Right.
But how much does Filoni want to do it? How much does Favreau want to do it? And does someone out there have a really good, intriguing, captivating story for Luke and his Jedi Academy?
Well, here's the thing. If they end up doing like a Luke Skywalker type series thing, then they need a really good actor to pull it off. Because again, there's so much stuff that they can do with the CGI face, unless they're doing a deep fake. If they end up doing a deep fake, then I said, yay, yeah, go for it. But if not, I think the alternative is to hire an actual actor, and that would be Sebastian Stan. I think he could do it. I think if they did it right, he could totally just bring that character to life. But at the same time, you have to be careful because Luke is such an iconic character. I mean, he's a Skywalker. So it just depends on how you do it and what the story is and what special effects you're using. If then I'm using a deep fake, then I say go for it. But if they're using the CGI, then I say no.
Yeah. I would love to go on adventures with them, looking up Sith artifacts and relics of the Force and the Jedi and the Sith. I mean, it's something super intriguing.
You do see him go on a mission to go. He ends up going to one of the Emperor's save houses in the Star Wars Battlefront 2 campaign. And he grabs that compass that leads him to the first like temple of the Jedi Temple, which actually ends up being in The Last Jedi, and that was pretty cool to have that mentioned from the game to the movie.
Yeah, I think that was one of Pablo Hidalgo's contributions to add that compass on that shelf.
Yeah, I thought it was a smart choice.
Yeah. I want to see more exploration of the Outer Rim as well. And I think that would lead us more into Snoke territory. Yeah. And at the beginning of this season 2, I wasn't quite sure when that episode happened where we see the tanks full of the experiments, if we were leading up to Snoke. But I kind of confidently feel now that we are going to address Snoke at some point in The Mandalorian, or going with that through line of the Empire doing research.
Right.
So
yeah, no, I think it's Snoke. I think that the projects they were working on were Snoke. I know a lot of people are saying that it was just the clones that they were putting inside the Dark Troopers, but I think it is Snoke that they're working on. And the reason why that they really didn't talk about it in The Mandalorian is because no one really knows what's going on, because they are a bunch of bounty hunters and mercenaries. Like they were like, oh, we don't really care about this. We just need to stop it. So they didn't ask any questions or anything.
Yeah, with everything that's happened, I feel like we're going to get a lot of bounty hunter goodness, especially in the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And we all kind of thought, well, okay, so the Razor Crest is gone. It was blown up. So what ship is the Mandalorian going to use now?
Yeah. There was a lot of questions a lot of new questions that were made because of this last episode. Some of them were answered, but a lot of new questions were made. And
what's the relationship between Din Djarin and Bo-Katan like now?
Yeah, because he now has the Darksaber, and that is the symbol of the right to rule Mandalore. Mm-hmm. And now Din has it, but he doesn't want it. He was like, I don't want it. Here you go. I mean, the main reason why I brought you all together was to get Grogu and save him. And he did that. He didn't want anything to do with the sword. He didn't know anything about it. And it sounds like he's been kept in the dark about a lot of stuff that involves his people's history. Yeah. So I'm thinking it's Snoke. I'm thinking it could be relation to the Dark Trooper, but I'm thinking they were leaning towards Snoke. I think anything that can help kind of answer some questions to the sequel trilogy, I think they'll do it in subtle hints in The Mandalorian or in these shows.
Yeah, I really like the design of the Dark Troopers. I know some people didn't because it looked a little kind of too like Battlestar Galactica in a way. But I mean, I thought they were a pretty good design for something brand new in Star Wars that you had to introduce. And the fact that they were so strong and so difficult to destroy. I mean, the only answer to the problem of those Dark Troopers to like a whole mass and a whole like just platoon of them is a Jedi to cut through them, and that was the only way I think that our heroes were going to survive in Chapter 16. And yeah, I mean that was like the perfect kind of, I don't know. It's kind of sad because I don't think we're going to get Luke Skywalker back again, but you never know. But I mean, we saw him kind of mow through them, and it kind of harkens back to Episode 1 where the Jedi needed adversaries to cut through, and so George Lucas created the battle droids and gave us the action. I think fans were expecting to see from the Jedi. I mean, I don't think you want them cutting through like people in Stormtrooper armor. So I think that was a good like story solution.
I do think it's interesting though for them to jump from the prequels to where they're fighting all crazy to the original trilogy where it's a bunch of old people fighting, and then you go to the sequel trilogy and then they're kind of doing the fight style that they did in the prequels, and seeing Luke move fast and do, I mean, that one scene where he used the force and crushes the Dark Trooper in the end, I thought all that fight stuff was done in a beautiful way, and it's just interesting to see these different fight styles. And I think that Luke probably did read some type of Jedi text, and he learned more of the fight moves and stuff than what we saw from the original trilogy, because he was moving faster and he was kind of doing like the lightsaber stuff that they did, like the movements that they did in the prequels.
Yeah, because infamously George Lucas told Mark Hamill on the set of Return of the Jedi that the lightsaber is a two-handed weapon, that he has to keep two hands on it the whole time. And of course we find out later that no, you don't have to. You can actually twirl it around. And
right. Yeah. I mean, I think something that and when we'll see in Kenobi is and we also saw in Rebels is the fight style. I love lightsaber combat, and I am a very big lightsaber and enthusiast because of George Lucas is a big fan of the old samurai type films, and you can see it go from the original trilogy where they are like old samurais fighting, and then you go to the prequels and they're just all over the place. And I think that in Kenobi we'll see that transition from the prequel fight style to the original trilogy type style, and we actually did see that in Rebels, where Kenobi he ended up doing his old master's pose, like he like ended up doing Qui-Gon Jinn's pose, and then he kind of moved into his stance that he did in the Clone Wars. And I would love to see more lightsaber combat in these new shows. Seeing Ahsoka show up was super cool, and you can tell that she's always kept that fight style. And I just want to see more lightsaber fights, because I felt like we were kind of deprived in that in the sequel trilogy. I think there should have been more lightsabers. I think I think Disney really said that the fight scene that they did in The Rise of Skywalker was the best lightsaber fight that they've ever done. And she really hyped that up, and you watch it. It's good, but it's not as good as Obi-Wan versus Anakin, Darth Maul versus Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. Like those are the most iconic fights because there's so much tension and there's so much emotion happening in those fights besides the cool fight styles. And there's a lot more at stake than when you go to the sequel trilogy when Kylo and Rey fight. It's just because they're both upset at each other and then that's it. But yeah.
So what did you think when you saw that X-Wing in Chapter 16 fly up? Really?
Yeah.
I didn't think that. I thought it was New Republic. And I didn't think it was going to be one. Yeah. But I mean, I did kind of think it in the back of my mind, but I was like, there's no way we're getting Luke. There's no way. That's not going to happen. I already was resigned to the fact that we were not going to get Luke Skywalker in this episode, that was not going to happen. I had so many people tell me, no, that's not going to happen. There's no way it's going to happen. And it happened.
Right. The reason why I didn't think it was going to be Luke Skywalker at first until I saw the X-Wing was it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to do that character. Yeah. And it makes the most sense that it was Luke. But to be honest, I was hoping for Cal Kestis or Mace Windu. I think that really would have been super cool as well. Not as iconic as Luke, but I think if we saw Mace Windu, I think a lot of people would have been like, what? Like, whoa. Because of that confrontation, like that would be between Boba and Mace Windu. I think that would have been like, oh my gosh, like this is about to go down because of Mace killed his father in Attack of the Clones, and the fact that he's still alive, and I think that would have been insane. But I think
the door's wide open for Mace Windu, though.
Yeah. And I don't see Cal. I mean, I want to see Cal Kestis live action, and I think they could totally do it. And I know a lot of people thought that Cal Kestis is happening, totally happening. I wanted to happen, but at the same time, I was like, I think they're just gonna save his live action debut for something larger, and that character is really good. And I think in the second game coming out, it's gonna bring more people towards liking him even more, because when that second game comes out, people are going to be like, oh, because the first one was fantastic. I wish I had more free roam, like more of a free roam type thing, and I think they'll do that in the second game. But I think that they will probably strictly stick with him staying in the game. I mean, I could be wrong. Again, you know, most of us were wrong about Luke Skywalker showing up, and he did. So who knows?
Yeah, Ricardo said the same thing. Didn't believe that it was Luke's X-Wing. And I think when they showed it on the black and white screen, when it was pulling in to the docking bay, I was like, oh my gosh. I think that was the first kind of inclination I had that this could be Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
And building up. And when we did our live reaction, he kept on saying, David. And like, don't give me hope. Don't do it. Don't get my hopes up. And oh my God, I still can't believe they did it. I mean, this season of The Mandalorian, they did everything that we were hoping, and they brought in so many characters in the live action that have never appeared, and in some kind of way, I mean, Boba Fett, the way he is now, I mean, he looks different. He's got a new coat of paint on his armor. Cobb Vanth, we never had him before. And yeah, Logan Wood says when he saw the one gloved hand, he knew it was Luke. And of course, you saw the lightsaber hilt as well. And at that point, yeah, that was like 100% confirmation from me that was Luke. But then I thought, okay, well, maybe someone else is wielding his lightsaber for some reason. So I was still like, that might not be him. Don't get your hopes up.
That actor who got the chance to play Luke, if I were him, I would have been freaking out the entire time, being like, I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm chopping up droids. This is great.
Yeah, and I actually have a picture of the actor that played him.
Yeah.
I'll put it up on screen here. That's the guy that played Luke Skywalker.
Do we know if that's the same actor that they cast to play Luke in Force Awakens and the flashback scene of where they're in Cloud City where he's fighting Vader?
No, it's not the same actor.
No, it's not.
That was a different actor. They look facially different, so I know like right off the bat that's not him. But yeah, it's wild, man, to get that call, to be a young actor, to get that call. Hey, we want you to play Luke Skywalker.
I would have flipped. I would have been like, yes, let's do this thing.
I kind of wonder if he is a Star Wars fan. I mean, some of these actors aren't, and I want to know what his reaction was to when he got the call and when he was on set.
Yeah,
probably in gallery. We'll get something in gallery.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say he actually kind of looks around my age. He kind of looks like he is
in his
20s.
Yeah. So the color of the blade, when I saw the green blade, I was like, man, that looks beautiful. It seemed a little bit more vibrant than we're used to, but I think that's just all the lightsabers now in general that they have in TV now and on film after the Disney purchase. But I mean, just the sound effects, the classic sound effects, and that color, that shade of green. I mean, it's just so great. I mean, I loved it. I think everyone universally just loved it. And it's so funny seeing people's reactions to the episode. People are just like, there's like stages they go through. It's like, no way. They all say, no way. Then you see like hope in their eyes. Then there's like disbelief. It's almost like the 7 stages that someone goes through it. And it's just like, everyone pretty much went through some sort of that, going through different stages of denial and then excitement and then hope and then, oh my God, they did it.
Yeah, no, I love seeing Luke, and I mean, and I know I've been talking about, I wish they did a deep fake and I wish they did his face better, but I think just bringing the character back is a huge thing because of what happened in the sequel trilogy, where we go to him in The Last Jedi and he's just lost his way. And we just don't feel like that's really Luke. And Mark Hamill felt the same way. He was like, this is not how I see the character. Like, why on earth would you do this? And then you go to Rise of Skywalker and you felt like that was his redemption. And Mark Hamill said that he was, I believe he said that he was kind of done playing that character, that his journey was done with him.
See, but that might be halfway true, because I don't think Mark Hamill had anything to do as far as new stuff with the episode. So that still could be true, but it's funny because Mark Hamill did comment on social media.
Yeah.
And has seen anything good on TV lately?
Yeah.
And yeah, he posted a few other things too, not pretty much saying not to spoil anything. I think it was a picture of him with his like finger over his lips saying, don't say anything. But yeah, it's an incredible thing, man. I'm still trying to reason with it, reconcile it. I mean, it's
to like comprehend everything. Because I mean, when we watched it, it was early in the morning. It was like first thing in the morning, and I remember Sam and I were super tired. I don't think David ever ended up going to bed, so I just knew that the episode would keep you awake. But I just remember sitting there and just being like, "Wait, what? Like, that's crazy!" They ended up doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, kudos to all of them. I mean, all the work they did this season, fantastic, and we have a slew of new shows to look to on the horizon. But I think next up is next up is the High Republic series, the novels.
That doesn't come out. Oh, okay, yeah. I was gonna say not the show. That doesn't come out yet.
Yeah, they haven't even shot anything on the show, I don't think.
No.
So yeah, it's gonna be 2022, 2023 is when we're gonna get the full impact of everything that they really announced. So
yep. So next year in the beginning, it's High Republic, then Bad Batch, then Star Wars Lego The Complete Saga, and possibly Jedi Fallen Order 2. We haven't heard anything yet, but there's a possibility that might come out next year. because they've been working all of 2019. I mean, well, not 2019, but all of this year working on it. That's a rumor, so don't quote me on that. I think, and then after that, it's the Book of Boba Fett, and then possibly the third season of The Mandalorian, but they haven't officially confirmed that either.
And then Andor wouldn't be too far behind because they already started shooting that in London.
Yep.
So it's pretty good. Yeah, RFB brings up a good point that Grogu saw Din's face, and that was like a very, very like kind of moment that built up for the past 2 seasons where he wouldn't take off his helmet for anything or anyone. And then we saw it for the face scan in the previous chapter, and then we get that last moment in chapter 16. And I mean, the camera just stayed there and they didn't talk to each other. You could just tell. I mean, and we all kind of wondered, is Din force sensitive? I think it's safe to say he isn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, they didn't really have to say anything in that moment, and it was super touching and gut-wrenching.
Emotional.
Yeah.
I think something that that Star Wars does great with is that it does kind of rhyme off itself, and that scene reminded me of when Darth Vader took off his mask to see Luke before he left, and I thought that was amazing because of Star Wars is really the story of family, and I think that this showed that fathers will do anything for their sons, and Din really did go over the top and just do everything that he could to save the child. And I loved that they kind of keep that theme going on in these shows. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, just a fantastic job. So we're gonna get Siege of Mandalore.
Yeah,
season 3.
Again,
Siege of Mandalore Part 2.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think ever since Dave Filoni's been since after, like, I mean, like, even during Clone Wars, I think, thank you, I think that he's been really obsessed with the people in Mandalore, like the Mandalorians in Mandalore, and I think that those characters are great, and I'm just kind of curious of what happens after all of that. Will we keep going on with the Mandalorians, or do you think we'll go on to something else? Because I feel like for a while the like main theme has been the people of Mandalore, so I'm kind of curious of where they would go after that. Because if you go to Clone Wars and Rebels and the Mandalorian, it's really been about the Mandalorian people. It's been that theme for such a long time, so I'm curious of where the story would go after.
Yeah, I hope they concentrate on the Mandalorian warrior culture, and we get adventures with all of them. I mean, Bo-Katan, Casca Reeves, Axe Woves, and you got Din Djarin. And like I brought up earlier, I mean, what is going to be the relationship between Bo-Katan and Din Djarin? Are we going to get some type of fight? I mean, what's going to happen with the Darksaber? I think that's a really big question. And hopefully, I mean, I'm pretty sure they're going to address it, but I mean, there's just so much to process after this last chapter. It's just so many things. The Book of Boba Fett, Darksaber. Do we get a new Jedi Academy series possibly? How are we going to see, we're going to see Grogu again, but in what capacity? Are we going to next see him maybe older and he can talk?
Yeah. I mean, I think if they ended up doing a series about Luke's Jedi Academy, I think that'd be great, because not only, I mean, that story's kind of been told in the comics, but I think it would be great because then we could see the rise of Kylo Ren and like on screen. And again, I think we've gotten that story in the comics, but seeing it in some type of screen form, I think that would be great, because anything that can make the sequels make more sense to us and maybe make them more cooler, I think that would be awesome. Because I think seeing a younger version of Ben Solo turning to Kylo Ren and more of the rise of Snoke as well, and like the Emperor and all that stuff, it would help make the sequels make more sense to the people that weren't that big of a fan of it.
Yeah, at this point in time of Star Wars storytelling, it's all about closing the gaps, and I think that strategy is very, very appropriate. I think, and I know a lot of people say, "Well, why don't we introduce new characters that have nothing to do with what we talked about?" I mean, right now we have a lot of these actors that are still working actors, alive and well. It's like, let's utilize them, and we can fill in the gaps, try and tell as many stories as possible, and then we can kind of venture off in a new territory. But they are kind of doing that, I think, with the Taika Waititi film, and Rogue Squadron. I think that we're kind of unsure on the time frame for Rogue Squadron, but I think it's going to actually be kind of during the time of a little bit after The Mandalorian, maybe. And I know we're going to get all new characters, but a lot of people were talking about it being after the sequel trilogy. But the logo has the old school X-Wing on it.
Oh, yeah. I don't. Oh, wait, you are talking about Rogue Squadron, right?
Yeah, the movie that Patty Jenkins.
Okay, yeah. Well, I believe Kathleen Kennedy did talk about this movie that was kind of based off the games and stuff. So I think they will stick to the original trilogy. I think they will. I don't think they'll go into the sequel trilogy. I think for the future, I think all the sequel stuff, they would probably do something on Disney Plus. And because of these actors that play these characters, John, Oscar, and Daisy, I think they could totally do something on Disney Plus if they wanted to. I know John Boyega said he didn't want to do a Disney Plus.
Well, I think he kind of like went back on those comments. He talked about if Daisy and Oscar do come back, he would be game for something.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I mean, the character Finn is interesting, and I think we all now know, spoilers for Rise of Skywalker, he is Force sensitive.
Oh yeah.
So maybe he can become a Jedi. I mean,
hey, we did get the new holiday special. I mean, I didn't think that. I mean, that was pretty cool for them to do the holiday special and then have that take place after the Rise of Skywalker. I thought that was pretty cool, even though I don't think it's canon. But yeah.
Thanks, Logan. Thanks for the nice words. Yeah. So, what do you think is going to be the next show that is announced? Because apparently that there's about 3 to 5 shows that are kind of more or less in the works that they haven't announced. So Boba Fett was one of them. What do you think else? What would you like to see that hasn't been announced?
Something that The Mandalorian has done, and it's proved us 3 times now, is that some of the characters that show up get their own spinoff. Ahsoka, Rangers of the New Republic, and now the Book of Boba Fett. So I think Luke coming in is, I really hope so, is if they end up doing Luke Skywalker's like Jedi Knight Academy. I think if they did that, and maybe that kind of goes to the games as well, and then maybe we could see like a younger version of Kyle Katarn and that kind of stuff. Because right now they've been doing a great job of pulling stuff from Legends and putting it into canon. And I think they need to keep doing that. And I think that show would be great. It just really depends on how you do Luke Skywalker. You cannot do the whole CGI thing for the entire show with Luke. They got to figure something different out if they end up doing it. I think seeing that would be great. I think seeing more of the bounty hunters, maybe if they end up doing a spin-off show off from the new thing that they're doing with Fett, and they just make like a bounty hunter show, so then we see more of Bosk and Dungar and all those other stuff. But Book of Boba will run same time as Mando season 3. Yes, that show is going to be happening during the same timeline. So these like 3 shows that are spinning off from Mandalorian are all happening in the same timeline as the Mandalorian. As far as we know for the Book of Boba Fett. But it would make sense if it was happening during the same timeline. But I know some people said that the show was going to be a prequel series. I think we'll see some flashbacks. I think we'll definitely see him that we'll see Fett escaping the Sarlacc pit. I think that's something that everyone's always wanted to see on screen. And I think we will see that for sure in that. And if they don't, then that's a really missed opportunity. But I think we'll see it.
Yeah, I definitely want to see from a different point of view him escaping and falling into the Sarlacc pit, coming out, and maybe seeing what happens inside of a Sarlacc pit. That would be really cool.
Could you imagine if they ended up doing something that where like the view was from like a GoPro like on his head, and then like he gets shot and he rolls in the sand and then he sinks down, he's like in there and he's like freaking out, and then like maybe the Krayt Dragon like is starting to eat the Sarlacc and then he just kind of flies out of there. But
yeah, and just to watch his armor getting like acid burnt. That'd be bad.
I think that would be, and I'm kind of interested because when he escapes the Sarlacc pit, did he just walk in the desert like Finn did, and he was taking off the armor as he's walking, or do you think that he that he was laying there and then Jawas kind of took it off his body?
Well, there's a pretty good theory out there that, like I brought it before, unreliable character, Cobb Vanth maybe rescued Boba Fett, and for payment, he had to pay Cobb Vanth the armor. So Cobb Vanth lied to Din Djarin about how he acquired the armor. And Cobb Vanth and Boba Fett actually have a secret relationship we don't know about. But that's just kind of a fan theory. But see that goes back to why didn't Boba Fett just attack Cobb Vanth, and take the armor from him? Why did he wait so long? Was he just recovering from his injuries? Or what was the deal there? Or was he just like planning on maybe using Fennec on Cobb Vanth, and then Din Djarin kind of interfered and just intervened with the whole thing, and it changed his plan? I mean, we might get all that explanation in the Book of Boba Fett.
That would be nice. I mean, something that they've been doing a lot lately is they've been creating a lot of questions, but not filling in those plot holes. So they need to start doing that. And I think this series would be a really good way to do it, because this question has been happening pretty much since 1983. Did Boba Fett survive the Sarlacc pit? Yes, he did. But how? That's the new question. How, though?
It would be awesome to get a really unique and not very kind of logical answer to that. I mean, I would want to see something totally out of the box, because, I mean, once you get in the Sarlacc pit, it seems like you're dead. You're a goner. So how did he do it? I mean, did he use like every single weapon he had on his body while he was like being like acid burnt? And it looks like maybe either he lost his helmet in there and he got scarred on his head, or did the acid go up and underneath the helmet and he was like in a vat of acid?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that part will be scary. I think seeing him get because people who are claustrophobic, I guarantee they'll be like, oh no. And
a lot of people can handle the spiders in chapter 9.
No, I think this season of The Mandalorian was a lot darker than the first season, and especially this last episode, a lot of crazy stuff happened, and I was really surprised by it. But I think we'll see him escape the Sarlacc pit. I think we'll see more of the bounty hunters. I think Cobb Vanth will show back up. I don't know if Mando will, because he'll be busy. He'll be busy dealing with the whole thing with the Darksaber. But I'm really hoping that they officially announce the season 3 for Mandalorian very soon, because it kind of bothers me that they didn't.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you're watching this on YouTube and Twitter, like, subscribe, follow us. We would much appreciate it. Yeah, it's possibilities, man. And this, I think we're gonna get so many cool things on screen, so many things to look forward to. It's just a great time to be alive as a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
And
No, I 100% agree. I think that the future of Star Wars is bright, and I can't wait to see what happens.
yeah, and to answer my question that I asked you, what series would you want to see? My answer to that is a Darth Vader series. I want to see him wreck shop. I want to see him on the battlefield with a battalion of stormtroopers mowing down people, a lot like the end scene of Rogue One, but on like a battlefield, and almost like Battlefront 2 style, where we see him like force jump and throw his saber. I mean, not quite Force Unleashed stuff, but I mean, I would like to see him in action.
To that.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. Okay. Imagine if they did a Darth Vader series, and then they had like Star Killer show up. How cool would that be? Of seeing
and Whitworth's around, man.
I know. Oh man, I think we'll see him in like in a battlefield type situation in Kenobi. I think they'll probably. I mean, even though it's called Obi-Wan Kenobi, Darth Vader is going to play a large role in that show, and I think that we will probably see him at some point go like full out Vader, because again, during this time, he's in his prime. Like, this is when Vader is the lapdog for the Emperor, and he really is just doing everything to bring peace to the galaxy, and really just wreak havoc and take control over planets. And he's on the front lines, and he's leading the troops, and it's going to be really awesome to see him in his prime. And the fact that Hayden's coming back is going to be super cool. I think that's going to make the character like awesome, and hopefully James Earl Jones is coming back to voice Vader, because if he doesn't,
yes, still super curious about the voice technology that they use with Luke Skywalker in Chapter 16.
Yeah, hopefully we find out in the gallery coming out on Christmas.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't ask this on the podcast, but I'll ask you, what rating do you think Chapter 16, for you personally, what's your rating for Chapter 16?
A 9. I would have gave it a 10 if they did the CGI better with his face. That's my only thing. Other than that, it was perfect. I loved it. I thought the action was great. I thought all the moments were perfect, except the CGI with Luke's face. Other than that, yeah.
I want to go 9.6.
9.6.
Almost perfect. Almost perfect. I mean, that episode was just tremendous. And great season finale, and to get my boy back.
Yeah. I saw that IGN gave that episode like a perfect score, and I was like, I'm surprised they didn't talk about like the face going on. Makes me wonder in DV and the Kenobi stories in relation to. Oh, okay. Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I was gonna say, and A New Hope. There are some lines that Vader says. I mean, like, for example, he's like, I have not felt that presence since, and then he starts walking away, and that's kind of a hint at that. I think that they do face off and stuff, and I think that was hinted at before, but I think a lot of people just thought, oh, he's talking about they're fighting Mustafar.
Right. That's what we all kind of assumed, but that line and this line, you should not have come back, gives them creative license to have them meet again, I think.
Right.
So, which totally benefits us.
Yeah, because it's more story, and that's also more money for Disney. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Then we get more live action stuff. Mm-hmm. Then we get to see Hayden back.
Yep. I'm very excited for that. I love Hayden, and he was my Luke Skywalker growing up. I loved Hayden, and I thought he did a great job as Anakin, and I know a lot of people
See, now
want
that you
that.
say that, I wish they didn't announce that, and we just got that as a surprise.
That would have been cool.
It's like, why did they even announce it? But
Yeah,
maybe it was in his contract or whatever.
I
But
think they wanted more people too. I was gonna say,
yeah.
I think anything that will get people more on board with the new Star Wars projects, I think they'll do anything they can. And Hayden was a big way to get people more excited for Kenobi, because yes, it's Obi-Wan, but having Anakin and both of them on screen again since 2005, that's huge. Yeah.
All right. That's pretty much all I got, Colin. Do you have anything else?
If we don't see Max Rebo in the Book of Boba Fett, I'll be upset. Yeah. All right.
Max Rebo. Yeah. But yeah, please follow us on Instagram at Star Wars Stuff Podcast. We're also on Twitter at Stuff Pod. Some of you guys are watching us on Twitter. Thank you very much. And we're also on Facebook. We have a Star Wars Stuff group and a page. And search us up on TikTok as well. And we also have a Patreon, Star Wars Stuff Podcast 2187. And we also have breaking news that, yes, dubstep is now canon.
Yeah.
When you said that in real time, I was like, what?
Whoa, I mean, it's true. I was blown away by it. They like started playing it when the Dark Troopers showed up, and I was like, that's an interesting call. I said this in the podcast, but I messaged my brother. I was like, hey, I don't know if you're still really into dubstep, because he used to be when him and I were younger. But I was like, it's now canon in Star Wars. And he's like, I'm gonna have to check that out. And I was like, nice. But yeah, no, it's canon in Star Wars, I guess.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. My name is David.
I'm Colin.
May the Force be with you
always.
the way. We have spoken.